Hello and welcome to Joy of Books with me, Miss Joy. Today's novel is Nemesis by Philip Roth. Released in 2010 and totaling 280 pages, it is a fiction story set in America during an outbreak of polio. Sharing his views on the book today is author and teacher TC. How did you get on with Nemesis?
Well, I got on very well with it indeed. I really enjoyed this book. It's obviously Philip Roth's final novel, I believe, and it was written in 2011, winning the Man Booker International Prize. So, rightly so, it's a great read. It's about this poliomyelitis outbreak in America in 1944. Story is set specifically in Newark in America, where children are being threatened with this illness, polio. So the threat of maiming, paralysis, and lifelong diseases is really central to the theme of this novel. The hot summer really comes across as well here. The sweltering heat, in fact, almost rises like steam from the pages. Famously, Philip Roth said that this would be his last ever book. I know that there were a couple books after, but I would say this was his last kind of work of fiction, perhaps. It's about this main character, Bucky Cantor, who is 23 and unfit for military service due to his awful eyesight. So he's given this job as a playground director, but the reader really feels his guilt about not fighting for his country in the war when all those his age were there, particularly given that he was a weightlifter and javelin thrower, so he's got this quite immense strength, and this serves him well early on in the book when he stands up to a gang of Italians, no less, spitting on the pavement near the school where he's playground director. Now, although he saw these Italians off, what he can't do is stop the spread of polio, so the children sadly began to get ill, and the paranoia and fear of the disease spreading really starts to settle in. Sound familiar? Yeah, okay, so we're talking almost 10 years before COVID, and Philip Roth has nailed it with this outbreak story, hasn't he? Cantor struggles to manage his loyalty to his girlfriend Marcia. She's away at a summer camp, and his responsibility for the children where he's working in Newark. She tries to get him to leave Newark for his own safety, but he feels too guilty and he wants to look after these children. Perhaps a little bit because of him not going to fight for America in the war. Maybe he feels a sense of duty here in Newark. In the end, though, with the children getting sick, he has no choice, so he does eventually leave, and he helps this promising javelin thrower Danny, much a rising star on the athletics field. Unfortunately, though, Danny contracts polio after diving in the water and getting sick. Kant himself also gets sick, and eventually it leads him to thinking that it's he who's actually been spreading it. And shamed, he then refuses to stay at camp. He refuses to stay with Marcia, who by then is his fiancée. And this is quite powerful, really. An interesting narrative style for sure from Roth. You know, the idea of this playground child meeting Cantor years later, that's the engine for the story and drives it forward. Yeah, this is a memorable read. I read it all in one sitting actually, which is it's a little bit unusual because it's quite a lengthy read. I think it comes in just under 300, about 270, 280 pages. So it's quite a read, but it's hard to put down. You know, I was gripped throughout, to be honest. And the kind of tagline for this is Nemesis. There's nobody less salvageable than a ruined good boy. Well, I don't know if that's true or not, but it's excellent writing and kind of level that you would expect from Philip Roth. I won't say at his peak, but certainly his other side of the peak is better than anybody else's peak, isn't it? At his best. There's an amazing exchange worth the cost of book alone between Cantor and his jilted fiancée, where she's frustrated. She loves him in whatever shape or form he takes, but he refuses to back down. He will have nothing to do with her. Just the concept of God and how he could harm children is unfathomable to him. And he goes on, obviously, suffering heavily from the effects of polio. And I think that's the message of the book, really. Life goes on. Death is inevitable. It's part of the life cycle. But this modern day tragedy is a very powerful story indeed. And coincidentally, I was watching a Netflix series about the planet, and essentially the message there is we are born, we live, we die. And I think Philip Roth captures this incredibly well in this novel, Nemesis.
Well, thank you very much for your review of the book, TC. It sounds like a very interesting read. Nemesis by Mercurial Philip Roth is available from all good book outlets. Thank you for joining me, and please remember to like and subscribe to my channel, Joy of Books.